911, what's your emergency?
Hey ladies, got a struggle? Need to vent? It's time to join your voice and get down to business with some critical thought, where like-minded ladies share their personal experiences to empower each other, using critical thinking to make wise decisions. And now, here's your host, Lady C.
Hi, this is Lady C. Welcome to another episode of The Struggles of Jehovah's Witness Women. I was contacted by a young lady that was inspired by our program and some of our past guests, because they helped her to realize that she is not alone in the struggle. Her former husband, a current Jehovah's Witness that's still in good standing in the congregation, both verbally and physically abused her. And despite seeking help from the elders in the congregation, her cries fell on deaf ears. In this episode, she will talk about her life and how she survived. Please join me in welcoming my guest, Mary Lynn Jones. Thank you so much, Mary, for being on the show.
Lady C, thank you so much for having me on your show, joining my voice with the other ladies. Thank you so much.
And to get started, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to be part of the Jehovah's Witness religion?
I was pretty much raised a Jehovah's Witness, born in. That's just the only religion that I knew from birth. So at the age of 20, I made a personal dedication to the organization, not to God. I know it's not to God now. And my mother and father were Jehovah's Witnesses. However, they weren't like the strict type. However, yes, I was born and raised.
Did you have any siblings that are witnesses or grew up with the religion as well?
Right, so it's 6 of us total. My oldest brother disassociated himself. My oldest sister is still a current active Jehovah's Witness, and I faded. So that's it. Out of the 6, only 3 of us really attached ourselves, I guess, to the organization, either by baptism. The other siblings did not.
At what age were you when you met your husband? How old were you?
18.
So you didn't get baptized till you were 20?
Correct. Because remember, we stopped going to the Kingdom Hall. So at 15, I started going to the Kingdom Hall on my own. I would either walk to the Kingdom Hall or my family would drop me and pick me up.
Okay. And then you made your dedication and baptism at 20, but you met your husband at 18. Now, was your husband baptized when you met him?
No, he was studying.
Okay. And so then you guys started to date? How old were you all when you started to date?
Like 18 and a half, 19.
Okay.
So we were talking for a little bit, and then we seriously started dating like a year and a half later, or a year later or so.
Okay. Now, you're not baptized. He's not baptized. Who got baptized first?
My husband.
And then you got baptized at 20.
Yeah, I got baptized a year later.
And at what point did you guys get married?
3 months after I got baptized.
So he was waiting for you to get dipped in the water before he could marry you?
Yes, because he was baptized. Right. So, they strongly discourage you marrying a so-called unbeliever or unbaptized person.
Mm-hmm. What was your courtship like?
He was okay. He was pretty nice in the beginning. However, he was controlling, but I did not know it was control at that age. I didn't recognize it as controlling. I thought it was love.
Okay.
I thought he was being protective.
Oh, yeah. A lot of women do that. But you know what? And then I want to just go back and just restate something, because as I was trying to get to know, your situation, I don't want anyone to think that you being baptized or not when you started to date him has anything to do with his personality as an abuser. Because at this point, in life, no one deserves to be abused, and no one should, no matter what your religious affiliation is, when you start dating or not, whether somebody's baptized or not, doesn't give someone the green light to now start abusing somebody, and all that. So a lot of times witnesses will think that. They will think, oh, you weren't baptized when you started dating, and that's the reason why things went bad for you. But as you're stating here, you're saying, hey, look, you didn't even realize what it was. He was being controlling. So you could have been baptized for 10 years, and he would have still had the same personality. Doesn't make a difference.
Absolutely.
Yeah, baptism has nothing to do with the way he treated you after you got married. So you saw these things in his personality. You saw he was being controlling, but you thought it was him showing love?
Yes.
Did you feel like you were special?
I did. He would actually say, he said to me, "You're not going to meet anybody like me. No one's going to treat you as good as I'm treating you."
So he gave himself a little pat on the back.
There you go.
And then at that point, because you're so young.
I'm young, yes.
This is your first relationship?
Yes, first relationship.
What about your mother and father? Did they know you were dating him?
Yes, and they hated it.
Okay, so now what did they see in him that you may not have seen?
My mother actually said to his face, she said, "I've seen your kind before, and you have no place in my daughter's life." So even to this day, he does not like my mother because she has always seen him for what he was.
And then you being the rebellious child, I'm not going to listen to my parents because I think that you're wrong, and I'm going to prove y'all that I can do this and handle this.
Yes.
You go ahead on into this relationship.
Yes.
So now you're married to this man.
Yes.
At what point does the verbal and physical abuse begin?
It began immediately. Soon after we got married, he started being more controlling of who I could speak to, where I could go, and if I disagreed with him, he would throw plates against the wall. He would push me up against the wall, to, I guess, in his eyes, assert his authority over me and to scare me back into submission.
Okay, the first time something like this took place, what went through your mind?
I said, I got to get out of this, but I don't know how, because I wasn't allowed to talk to my family because they're against our marriage in his eyes. And I knew something was wrong, but I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do.
Were you feeling like if you talked to your mother, she would say, "I told you so"?
Yes. And so I didn't want to be proven wrong, so I just stuck it out.
So then after he goes off and you get in line with what he wants you to do, does he ever apologize?
No.
So he just goes on about his business like nothing happened?
Like nothing happened, as though I deserved it.
Did you ever have any time in your relationship where you felt good?
Well, when we first got married, I had a level of self-esteem that I thought I had, but as the more I was in this relationship with him, my self-esteem gradually began to diminish, and up until the point where I developed depression, major clinical depression, because of all the put-downs, and I just felt like I wasn't ever good enough. After I contacted the elders to let them know what I was going through, they treated me as though I was the problem. If I was a better Christian sister, if I went out in field service more, if I cooked more, if I provided more marital relations to my husband, then he would be more happy and my family life would be better, and most importantly, God would be happy with me. But it didn't make sense to me, even after they said all that, but that's what they would say to me, and so each time I would go back to the elders, they would look at me more and more like a rebel.
How long did it take you to approach the elders after you got married and this abuse had started?
6 months into it, I had a breaking point, and I was just hysterically crying one day by myself, and I prayed to Jehovah, and I was inclined to say, you know what, let me go to the elders, because that's what you hear from the platform, that you need to seek gifts in men. You need to go to the elders if you're having some kind of problems, especially in your marriage. And then I would read the different Watchtower and Awake publications, and they strongly encourage you to go to the elders if you're having marital problems. So that's what I did, in hope that this would stop.
And then basically they're telling you that you're the problem.
Yes, each time.
Did they ever speak to you as a couple?
Yes, they did.
What did they say to you as a couple?
As a couple, they would go over scriptures for the husband to treat his wife as the weaker vessel and love her as he loves himself, and for the wife to have deep respect for her husband and be submissive. They went went through those scriptures, and they would sit and hear our differences. However, I was still told that I was not being submissive.
So you also said that you had read some Watchtower publications about domestic violence. You want to share that story about what you read?
Yeah. So this is a pretty current article. It's in the 2000 range. So I read this article published by the Watchtower Tract Society on domestic violence, and I was happy. I was like, wow, they finally have a publication that could help me in this domestic violence relationship. And so I read the article, and come to find out, the character's name was Selma. And Selma was studying with a sister, having a Bible study. She was not baptized yet, but she was studying. And she went to her study, and she said, my husband's abusing me, and he hit me. And she pretty much confided in this sister. And the sister says to her, this is in this article, who's trying to be the Christian here, you or your husband? And then Selma said after talking to the sister, she realized that she needed to make the adjustments. And so she did. And then after years later, her husband finally came into the organization. I could have just threw that Watchtower Awake into the trash. I could not believe that they just completely discounted that poor lady. That sister never acknowledged that this woman is experiencing domestic violence.
Right.
So not only are the elders trying to encourage you to reconcile and stay in your abusive relationship or marriage, you get it from a sister that you're studying the Bible with. So it's really scary. So my depression got even worse because it's like, okay, I've gone to the elders. I read the publications. I'm hearing in this publication that even your own sisters will encourage you to stay. I just felt like trapped.
So how long did this abuse take place before you decided to leave? Or did you leave?
I did leave. Earlier in 2005, I got married, and then I left him like December 2005, kind of going into 2006.
Oh, you didn't even stay married a year before you left.
No.
So you leave him, and then where did you move to?
I moved with my parents for a while, and then I got my own apartment eventually.
Now, when you finally moved home, what did your mother say about the situation? Because remember, she said she didn't think that you guys should be together anyway.
Well, she was happy, and she was actually quite encouraging. She said, you're going to get through this. You know, God's going to give you a new life. I'm glad you're back here. We're going to help you get through this. So she was very encouraging.
So you're married a couple months, you buy a house, you can't take it anymore, you move back home with your parents, you end up in your own apartment, and then you come full circle and you do what?
I went back. Yes.
What was the deciding factor for that?
We still had the home. It's just nobody was paying the mortgage on the home. So we had to do something, either let it go into foreclosure or try to sell the home. So that process was still going on. So I reached out to a sister in the congregation that I knew was a real estate agent to help us sell the home. And so pretty much she did know what was going on. She knew that my husband and I were separated and that we were trying to sell this home. And so it was her influence that drove me to going back to reconcile with him,
Oh, no.
Yes, it was a sister. And so this correlates back with that Watchtower Awake, how even the sisters in the organization will encourage you to go back to an abusive relationship.
Now, she stepped across the line because she's supposed to be selling houses, not trying to be somebody's marriage counselor.
She did. She did.
Did you guys have frequent talks?
We would have talks every time that we would have to deal with something with the house, selling of the house. That was an opportunity for her to talk to me. And so those opportunities that she would fill in the party line of the Jehovah Witness antics.
So instead of her helping you and drawing you away from this abusive man after you've left and even possibly pointing you to get help in the community, she's steering you back to this abusive man.
Yes.
All in the name of it's going to make us look good as a people.
Right, right. And it kind of like the guilt trip you into it. It's like, well, God's not going to be pleased with you doing this and staying away from your husband, and, you can never remarry. I mean, it was just so much, and I'm just like, honestly, I don't even care to remarry at this point. I'm having such a horrible life in this marriage. I'm not even thinking about marriage. I'll be fine by myself.
Now, see, this is the thing. When you're looking at your situation, I think that's the biggest thing in the Jehovah's Witness faith is they're always talking about you can't remarry, and I think they try to hold that over people's head because they know you want companionship.
Right. It's not natural. We're social beings. Absolutely. They play on that. They play on the psyche that we are social beings. Man is not supposed to be alone. That's clearly in the Bible, so they play on that. Absolutely.
Well, during the time that you had left your husband, did he ever reach out to you to come back?
He had stalked me for probably about a year. He came to my job. He came to my apartment. He found me because I moved into an apartment. I didn't let him know where I was. And he tracked me down, and it was amazing because I just got this inkling to go to the window, and I looked out the window, and I saw his truck, and he was taking pictures of my car, and so it kind of scared me. Now, this is like 1 o'clock in the morning, dark outside, and so I actually called the elders at our Kingdom Hall and told them what was happening.
What made you call the elders instead of calling the police?
Because we're told from the platform at the Kingdom Hall to call the elders first to discuss whatever problems you may have rather than secular authority.
Did you ever feel like your life was in danger?
Yes, I did.
Did you get a restraining order against your husband?
I did.
Okay. What about your work? Did you have a job?
I did have a job. I worked full-time and part-time.
So you did have your own money at least?
I did, and I sure did need it.
Were there any children involved in the relationship at this time?
Yes, we had one child together.
So that, to me, is what keeps you closer to the husband.
Right.
The issue that most women have is they have that connection because they have a child with this person.
Yes.
And so you keep wanting this child to be with their father or whatever, and now you keep going back.
It's two things. You got not only the organization, but you got that over your shoulder. Oh, I'm staying for the children. I want to have a complete family life. So you sit there and you tolerate a lot of intolerable things, tolerating it for the sake of my child, not knowing that that's not really a good excuse to tolerating it, but that's what I'm doing.
Mhm. But then, so what are you thinking? You're a Jehovah's Witness, so you're thinking that you should have what kind of a marriage now?
I'm a Jehovah's Witness, so I'm thinking that I need to have a successful marriage with this guy. I'm thinking I need to reconcile. I'm thinking I need to be more submissive, although I really didn't understand how more submissive I could have been to nonsense. So, yeah, that's what's running through my head at the time. In the organization, you're supposed to be an example to the world. So we are good wives. We have successful marriages. We are an encouragement and example to the world, especially when we go knocking on doors. Yeah, our marriage and our marriage is well because we're in the organization. That was so far from the truth. They paint this perfect picture that is not true. And so I was trying to stay on the canvas. I was trying to stay on that perfect picture. So the way to do that is to sit there, be quiet, and tolerate the intolerable.
Mhm.
And I have this child, and it's a girl. And most women don't grow up with their fathers. Or little girls. Some families are just divided straight from birth. So I was happy to even have a husband, and he wants to be active in this child's life. So I'm going with that, too. So I stay for those reasons as well. And this was my first relationship. And so I did love him. I did think much of him. So I got a lot going on. My thinking back then as an active Jehovah's Witness was that a Christian brother was better than a worldly guy. A Christian brother, he has this elevated status. And then from the platform, of course, you're going to hear them say, marry only in the Lord, marry the believer, which the believer in the organization is a Jehovah's Witness brother.
In your congregation, were there very many available brothers?
No. I actually met him at a different congregation.
Okay. So you were out there visiting a congregation and met a brother, and you're like, oh, I don't hit the jackpot.
Yes, because there's not a lot of them. I mean, and honestly, that's all you hear from other sisters. You know, oh, I can't wait. Oh, I'm going to visit a congregation on a Sunday because hopefully I'll meet a brother to marry.
Did you ever confide in anybody on your job?
Yes, I did. And one of the ladies, she was so encouraging. You know, she kind of took me under her wing like a big sister. She didn't never get into the religious aspect of it. She mainly focused on women empowerment, that pretty much I didn't have to stay in that kind of relationship. So I did get encouragement to get out, but it was not through the organization. It was through, as someone in the organization say, worldly counsel. So I did get counsel, good counsel, but it was not from the organization.
Mm-hmm. Did you ever seek to talk to a therapist?
I did. Awesome. Best decision I ever made. Again, this counselor never attacked the religion. She never even said, oh, well, that's why you're this way because of that religion. She focused on, no, this is clearly domestic violence, and it just has all the characteristics of domestic violence. However, she did say the policies in this organization, I could see how it could be even harder for you to get out. If domestic violence isn't already difficult to get out of, your religion does not help. She did say that.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's true.
Yeah.
But do you think that you were so busy about getting married that you never really looked in to see what kind of person this was?
I didn't.
And there was no telltale signs before you got married?
I think there was some red flags. Again, the controlling behavior that I mistake for protectiveness, the aggressive talking that I mistake for authority. There were some telltale signs. However, I guess I was kind of conditioned to think that, well, you know, this is my Christian husband-to-be, so it's kind of like I was preconditioned to accept the unacceptable.
Did you think that because he was a brother that God was somehow in this arrangement?
I did.
And so you probably thinking God would not put you with somebody that would be abusive.
Exactly, especially in the organization. And my former husband, I mean, he could quote that Bible. I mean, he could quote the scriptures. And so it was hard for me because it's like, you know, every time I would feel a certain way, he would take the scriptures and twist it to fit his needs. So it's kind of like I felt like he was using the Bible against me. You need to do this and do that. You know, God hates this and hates that. But hold on now. Outside looking at now, as I've matured, God hates violence too. God hates mistreating people. So he doesn't just hate, you know, a divorcing. He doesn't just hate a lot of the other sinful things.
Now, we did talk about the fact that you no longer believe this is the truth. So what was the qualifying factor that got you to thinking about this religion and the validity of all the things that was being told to you from the platform?
The turning point for me was repeatedly going to the elders for help and not getting help, being told that I'm the problem. I disagree with their policy or the way that they handle abuse cases. It's like the two-witness policy. The elders would say to me, okay, well, where's your two witnesses that he pushed you up against the wall? You know, I don't have a witness. These things are happening behind closed doors. Where is my witness? There are none.
So even in the domestic abuse, they were asking for two witnesses?
I cannot make this up. Yes. Then they said, well, you need to record them. You need to record them. I said, it is illegal. I told them. I said, it is illegal to record someone without their consent. He's not going to consent to me recording him abuse me. I mean, it didn't even make sense. It didn't even make sense what they're asking me to do. And I'm like, with domestic violence, you don't know when it's going to happen. I mean, because it's a cycle of abuse. So you could go through that honeymoon stage, and then you didn't do something right or say something right, and then now you're into the abusive stage. So you can't predict when it's going to happen.
What did you do to find out that this wasn't the truth? What type of resources did you find?
Once I finally got away from him, separated from him, I actually stopped going to the Kingdom Hall. I said, you know, I need to take a break from all of this. And it was at that moment where I was trying to find healing from all of this abuse. That's when I did seek the professional counselor outside the organization. When I started to reflect on my past, she was kind of limited in help because she didn't really understand the dynamics of Jehovah's Witnesses. So I actually reached out to, I guess, I want to say social media, to YouTube, and I typed in domestic violence. I typed in former Jehovah Witnesses. I typed up abuse of Jehovah Witnesses into the YouTube search, and the gates flooded with abuse cases. Then I come to find out about the child abuse cases. I said, oh, that's it. I said, and how they cover it up. And then as I started listening to these child abuse story cover-ups, I said, it sounds like what I went through with my domestic violence. I said, so it wasn't just my personal case that they neglect and that they cover up and tell you to be quiet and hush. This is just how they operate. The sad part is they operate this way with children, innocent children. Where is there two witnesses? This was sickening my whole world upside down, just upside down. Then it opened the floodgates of it being false religion and false prophet. And I mean, it was, whoa. I mean, when I say those floodgates open, it just starts rolling out.
And that's the reason why they really don't want people on the internet.
That's why. I could never understand why they said stick to the guidelines, stick to what we say. Don't go fishing on the internet for this and that. You have everything you need in these publications. You have everything you need in the Watchtower Awake and whatever publications we print. Those are the guidelines. And you are not to seek outside counseling. You're to go to the elders for counseling. Now, you can't. They do encourage you to go to the doctor, but that's even restricted with the blood issue. But we're not going to get into that. But it's so. This is very high power control religion, and so anyhow. It's just been an awakening experience, and, yeah.
And if there's a Jehovah's Witness woman listening or someone who's a walk-away believer, what type of advice would you give them if they discover that they're in a relationship that's abusive?
For all the ladies listening to this program, do not keep domestic violence a secret, because all it does is escalate. Don't hide it from your parents. Don't hide it from your colleagues. Don't hide it from your friends. You may feel embarrassed, but put that to the side. Go get help. They have shelters for domestic violence. Look it up online. It's in the yellow pages. Talk to a friend or family member. Seek help. It is dangerous. Domestic violence only escalates, and you have your life and your children's life to consider. So, again, put religion to the side, put feeling embarrassment to the side, and seek help, please.
I know it's easy to say love yourself, but they need to realize that before you got married to this man, you have your own identity. You are who you are.
So did you call any domestic violence places?
I did. I reached out to the House of BRUISES. I've called the police before. So, yeah, I did reach out. But even when I reached out to those sources, when the elders found out that I did, it was like, well, drop the case. Drop that case against him. You know, don't take your brother to court. They would say that, or you know, we're going to handle this judicially or in the well, they never did. But I'm just, you know, you're actually discouraged to seek help. Well, my experience, it was discouraged.
Yeah, they do. They do discourage it because they don't want people to think that Jehovah's Witnesses have problems.
Yeah.
So they do try to do that. Your case is prevalent and widespread, and a lot of times people that are involved in religions, they follow what the religious policy is to their own detriment.
Right, and I'm glad I didn't, because, again, I know I mentioned earlier I was suffering from clinical depression through all of this. And so depression is a serious mental condition, and, you know, suicidal thoughts, not eating well, not sleeping well. Again, I still had a small child. I'm a mother. You know, postpartum depression probably played a role in there somewhere also, you know, on time. So there was a lot going on mentally, and then I have this high controlling religion. I mean, where is my peace of mind, you know? It was a very difficult time in my life.
So what is your life like now? How do you feel you came out victorious from all of this?
Because everything I went through was a lesson learned. Now I know how a man is supposed to treat a woman. Now I know what I want, and I have value. I love myself. I have remarried. I have an awesome husband, just awesome. The husband that's a good fit for me. I have no complaint.
Is he a Jehovah's Witness?
He is not.
And how did you meet this guy?
I met him at my cousin's wedding, and he was in the wedding, and so was I. So we were part of the wedding party. And at first I didn't pay him any mind because, again, I was just not even interested in getting married ever again because of what I went through.
Oh, my goodness. Is that traumatic, huh?
So I really didn't plan for this remarriage, I didn't get divorced from my first husband to get remarried. No, I got divorced. I need to get out of that mess.
Right.
This is, and then I had a baby. I had another child, a little girl. Honestly, I feel like I have a second chance at life. I remember in my former life, I used to pray to God and say, when I get to paradise, all the things that I have now is what I prayed for then. Paradise, my husband will love me. When I get to paradise, me and my daughter, me and my child will have this close, loving relationship. When I get to paradise, I will have a big new home. I will have enjoyable work. I will have high self-esteem and feel good about myself and pretty much the life I have now. I didn't have to wait to paradise to get this life.
True.
No, I had, but that was my thinking back then. But I would give myself hope that, in the new system I'll have all these things. But no. As soon as I left that abusive relationship, and this is what I want our callers to hear, as soon as I left that abusive relationship and I stayed gone and I sought necessary help, the healing process began. When I read the Bible, for me, I remained a believer in God,
Okay.
So I read the Bible outside of Watchtower Publications, and I really felt the love of God for me. And everything, when I say everything I lost in my formal marriage, I have back in abundance. I mean, everything, losing the house, the car, the money, the relationship, the child issues, custody. I don't have none of those issues anymore.
And these are the things that women need to hear because they need to know that they're not alone in the struggle. They need to know that, yes, you may go through some things, and if you pick yourself up and start walking, yes, you can attain a life of happiness outside of the Watchtower organization.
And you don't have to wait to the new system to get it.
I think that's the biggest thing right there. Is you ain't got to. I think they'll be happy to hear that.
But you don't have to walk through the Great Tribulation. You don't have to be a survivor of Armageddon to get it. Again, we're going back to the canvas. That's the picture they paint. When you see in the Watchtower Wake publications, people walking out with the Great Tribulation is behind them, and they're walking into a new paradise earth. You don't have to wait till all that happens.
Mm-hmm.
It is so. There is no.
That is true.
You can have a good life now. You can have peace of mind now.
When you were dating your husband that you're married to now, what things did you look at in him to help you realize that this was a wise choice?
First of all, it was an open relationship in that everybody knew we were talking, or courting, and so I had. Outside, they say love is blind, but the neighbors is not. So I had other people to kind of say, hey, okay, he's a decent guy. I actually did my research on this guy. What does he do? Has he got a good job? How does he treat other people? See, I also viewed what is his reputation? Because how he treats other people is a good indication of how he's going to treat me. How does he treat his own mother? I learned from my old situation. Other things, I knew what I wanted. I knew that I wanted to be treated with love. Mm-hmm. And he's a very loving, gentle person with not only me, my daughters, with his own family. He's very supportive, encouraging. He's not judgmental like Jehovah Witnesses can be sometimes. The qualities I saw in him is the loving qualities I always wanted, but I didn't know that I was ever going to get it. I didn't even look to get it.
Mm-hmm. It was like you were like all other women in the organization, and it was like a shot in the dark because a man walks into the Kingdom Hall, or, he's an available brother, and you want to marry him. And like you said, you looked at him and no doubt got baptized because you wanted to marry this person because you probably didn't see anybody else in the organization because there's not that many brothers.
There really isn't. There's not. Mm-hmm. And then, well, hold on now. If there is single brothers, that are, let's say, ministerial servants or elders, they actually have a bit of an arrogance to them. Because they know there's not a lot of brothers, they're very picky. And, well, there's nothing wrong with being picky, but they have an air of arrogance to them. They're like, well, I'm a ministerial servant. I'm an elder. So they're just as controlling as my ex-husband, and he didn't have those privileges at that time. So it was just kind of like this same old arrogance I found.
Mm-hmm.
I mean...
They felt like they were the cream of the crop, and they could pick who they wanted.
Absolutely.
Now, your ex-husband, is he remarried?
He's not. He has not remarried.
And how long has that been?
That's been, about 5 years. And you know what's amazing? He's still in the same place where I left him. like what I'm trying to say, not literally and figuratively. He's in the same old apartment. He's like, my life has only flourished. His has remained the same.
So what have you learned about this situation with the domestic abuse?
I have learned not to accept any form of abuse, especially physical. It's not okay, and it's not love.
I can't stress this enough, that it's important that women realize that if a man hits you once, that is only the beginning. Don't wait thinking that things will get better. It will only get worse. So I can't stress that enough. So what are some of the things you want to do for women now that you've been through this in your life? Are you looking to help other women?
Yes, I am. I want to do volunteer work with domestic violence because I truly understand. And I'm working on a book that's going to bring out Christianity and domestic violence. And, again, my scope is from the Jehovah Witness outlook because that's all I know. And the purpose of the book is to help other Jehovah Witness women that are struggling, use my story, my life, as a means of hope that you can get out of this high-controlling religion and live a happy life. You can feel good about yourself and still love God. You can still, if you want to remain a believer in God, you can still have all that.
Are you attending a church now?
I am. I'm not a member of any church, but I do go to church. I read the Bible for myself. I pray, read the Bible, and I have a relationship with God. I don't really feel that I need necessarily to be somebody's member at this point in my life because I am still healing from this organization trauma. So I kind of am leery to stamp a membership label to myself.
Okay.
Yeah, that's where I'm at in my walk.
Okay. Well, excellent. We really enjoyed having you on the Struggles of Jehovah's Witness Women. I am certain that many women that are tuning into this program can definitely find some takeaways from your example and experiences, because I'm sure that they're probably afraid and not really realizing that they are not alone, and that, yes, they can start their life again, and, yes, they can be happy. So thank you so much, Mary Lynn. I appreciate you being on the program.
I'm really happy to have shared my story with the audience today, Lady C. Thank you again for having me.
If you've been in the struggle and want to appear as a guest on our show, email us at exjwct@gmail.com.
This program was sponsored by Critical Thinkers.